In recent years, if you wanted a luxury off-road SUV, your go-to has always been the Land Rover Defender. But now, the Lexus GX has arrived with a complete update. So how does this new GX compare against the Defender? Well, let's go for a drive and find out. Unlike the Land Rover Defender, the Lexus GX only has one engine option. It's the 3.4-liter twin-turbo V6. It produces 349 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. Just by looking at it, you can tell that this is a heavy SUV, and it is at 2.5 tons. But the power of this V6 makes up for that weight penalty. Whether you're driving uphill, merging onto a highway, or going off-roading, this V6 never once felt underpowered. Like many turbocharged engines, power comes in at low RPMs and it's sustained all the way up to the red line. You can also make the throttle response a little bit sharper by switching the drive mode into Sport and Sport Plus. Yes, this Lexus does have those type of modes. And at that same time, it'll also pump in a bit more engine noise through the speakers into this cabin. Switching to one of those drive modes also gets you slightly faster gear shifts from the 10-speed automatic that's paired with this engine. But even in those drive modes, the gear changes are not quite as quick as the ones that you get in the Land Rover Defender with its 8-speed automatic. But at least the gear changes in this Lexus are smooth, whether you're in the comfort mode or all the way up in the Sport Plus mode. However, this powertrain is not that economical. It's rated for 15.3 liters per 100 kilometers in a city and 11.2 liters per 100 kilometers on a highway. During my time with the SUV, I've been averaging 14.8 liters per 100 kilometers. So in between the rated fuel economy numbers, but still on the high side. And for the time being, it's not available with the hybrid powertrain. When you're driving this Lexus GX on paved roads, it feels very competent. Yes, there's quite a bit of body roll through corners and quite a lot of nosedive in emergency situations, but it doesn't feel like as though it wants to tip over or anything like that. It still feels very much in control. The Lexus GX also comes with adaptive suspension, so when you switch it into Sport or Sport Plus modes, it does resist a little bit more of that body roll. Off the beaten path, the 2025 Lexus GX 550 has center and rear locking differentials. This demo vehicle is the Overtrail Plus trim, which includes 33-inch all-terrain tires along with multi-terrain select drive modes and crawl control with turn assist. There are also skid plates underneath the SUV to protect the engine and transmission. The GX 550 has 8.7 inches of ground clearance, an approach angle of 26 degrees, and a departure angle of 21 degrees. Compared to the Land Rover Defender 110, the GX 550 doesn't have quite the same off-road capabilities. The Defender has more ground clearance, better approach and departure angles, and a better water wading depth of 35.4 inches versus 27.5 inches for the GX. Additionally, Lexus's engineers didn't give the GX the disconnecting front sway bar of the new 4Runner or Tacoma, which both share the same chassis. So while the Lexus GX can go off-roading, the Defender can go further away from civilization than the GX. Thanks to the adaptive dampers and the thick sidewalls of the tires, the ride of the Lexus GX 550 is plush. The SUV doesn't bounce too much when driving over a speed bump, the tires effectively absorb the shunt of a pothole, and you can go pretty quick on a forest service road without your vision becoming blurry. As for noises, for a square SUV, the GX 550 has a remarkably quiet cabin. On highways, wind noise is well subdued, as is road noise from the all-terrain tires. The interior of the Lexus GX is quite spacious, but that all depends on where you sit. For example, up here in the front, There's plenty of space for my 6'4" height. I have no problems with legroom and more than enough headroom. But in these back seats, you don't get as much space as you get in the front. So behind my tall 6'4" driving position, I basically have to keep my legs pointed outwards, because if I try to keep them in line with my body, my knees are digging into the back of these front seats, and it really hurts because the backs are made out of plastic, not soft leather. However, space for my feet is okay, even though the seat is at its lowest position right now, and headroom is pretty good too. My hair is not brushing up against the headliner, but I do sit really high up, much higher than in the front. However, the seats can recline, and they do recline by quite a lot actually. But if you are relegated to the center seat, you do have to deal with a pretty sizable center hump, so legroom for you is not going to be great. Back here you also get a couple of air vents. The outboard seats are heated on this particular trim, and you get a couple of USB-C ports plus sunshades on this Overtrail Plus trim. Also, the GX is available with a third row, but that all depends on which trim of the GX you go for. This Overtrail Plus trim, for example, doesn't have it, but other trims do have it. And you can also get the second row with captain's chairs, but again, that also depends on which trim of the GX you go for. Back to the front, the design of this interior is similar in some cases to some other Lexus vehicles, but for the most part, it does stand out on its own. So of course, the infotainment screen and the climate controls are similar to some other Lexus vehicles, as is the steering wheel and the door controls. But the center console looks pretty much bespoke to the GX. Most of the controls in here are physical, so from the drive mode selector to the steering wheel mounted controls to the climate temperature controls, those are all physical. However, if you want to access all of the climate controls, for example, then you have to do it through the infotainment system. Speaking of which, it is the same one that is used in other Lexus and Toyota vehicles, so it is pretty easy to navigate around. Of course, it supports wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto should you not want to use the native system. As for the materials in this cabin, they are soft, but they don't quite feel as nice as they do in some other Lexus vehicles. So for example, the dashboard does have soft plastics on it, but it's not leather like how it would be in some other Lexus vehicles. And it's the same thing on the door panels and on the center console. Yes, there is a little bit of softer leather on there, but most of it is still plastic. Now, of course, some would argue that this is supposed to be more of a tough and utilitarian type of interior because it is an off-road focused truck. But when you're paying six figures for this SUV, I expect it to be just a little bit more luxurious. It doesn't quite feel like a Toyota in here, but it doesn't really feel like a proper Lexus in here either. It's somewhere in between. And I just wish that it was a bit more towards the Lexus side of things. But that's just my opinion, so take what you will from what I have to say. In the trunk, the Lexus GX has 1,138 liters of cargo space behind the rear seats. With the seats folded, cargo capacity increases to 2,178 liters. Without the third row, there is a large step behind the folded second row seats and the trunk floor. But from looking at pictures of the GX equipped with the third row, that step is gone. As for the spare wheel, it's located underneath the SUV. The 2025 Lexus GX 550 starts at a smidge over $86,000 Canadian, while this Overtrail Plus trim will cost you roughly $108,600 Canadian. The starting price is roughly the same as the Defender S110 with the inline-six engine, but the Defender does have more options and more expensive engines to choose from, including the V8s. But with its six-figure price tag, the Overtrail Plus trim does come well equipped with a lot of convenience features. There are heated and ventilated front seats, heated rear seats, a heated steering wheel, 2-zone automatic climate controls, 3-zone is available, surround view cameras with multiple off-road views, a head-up display, a wireless phone charging pad, power sunroof, power liftgates, a 21-speaker Mark Levinson premium audio system, and that massive 14-inch touchscreen. So is the Lexus GX 550 good enough to dethrone the Land Rover Defender? I don't think that it is. It's a great SUV, but it just feels like as though Lexus held back. They could have given it air suspension, more ride height, a front disconnecting sway bar, and so on. But for some reason, they didn't. This feels a little bit more at home on roads rather than off-roads, whereas the Defender feels great both on roads and off-roads. So that's why I think if you still want a luxury off-road SUV, Defender is still the way to go. This is great, but again, just feels like Lexus could have done more. In the meantime though, if you do want to know more about this GX 550, I have a more detailed written review of it over on my website. You can find that link in the video description or click on the pop-up banner right up there. And as always, I will see you in the next car, truck, or most likely another SUV. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.